Are you struggling to fill your calendar with high-quality appointments? If it feels like your strategies just aren't cutting it, well, you're not alone. I mean, many professionals waste time on outdated techniques that lead to missed opportunities and really an empty pipeline. Without a proven system in place, you'll continue to battle with low booking rates and unqualified leads that are clogging your schedule. In this video, I'll share a bold statement method that has been shown to increase appointment rates by 43%. And whether you're just starting out or experienced, this strategy can transform the way you approach appointment setting. Hi, I'm Randy Schwantz, and I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine and a client, Gage Johnson. He's a young producer with really about 8 months of real life working experience, but only 4 months out in the field, and he's already written a huge amount of new revenue for a young guy. So here it is, live Gage Johnson. This is Gage Johnson. Gage is with Oak Ridge. He's a relatively new producer. How long have you been producing, Gage?
Just under 2 years.
Just under 2 years. Commercial side, and has had some pretty darn good results here lately. So that's what we wanted to get him to talk about. So Gage, kind of give us a little bit of the background. What'd you do before insurance? Let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 24, went to college here in Chattanooga, worked through college, got out of college here at UTC, and actually started with a local startup insurance brokerage called CSU. I worked there for about 10, 11 months, and it actually kind of split off and only did health benefits. Knew someone that was a part of Oak Ridge that had been acquired here 2 years previous. They reached out to me, got me an interview with Cynthia, and then joined Oak Ridge shortly after.
Yeah. So you've been with Oak Ridge now for about a year?
Yeah, just short of that. Started, my first date was April 1st. So coming up on.
Yeah, so 8 months. 8 months. It's a little more than 8 months. Good for you. And so how would you contrast, knowing that Cynthia's involved, how would you contrast your training before Cynthia and then with and after Cynthia? Like how different is it?
Definitely night and day. The first agency I was with, I really got no training whatsoever. Basically got, login information, was told to pick up the phone and start making calls to customers. And I actually didn't even have an account manager or anything there. So I was making my own submissions, handling everything from calls to, finished, product. And so it was night and day for sure. Cynthia has, a very intensive 90-day period where we are not even active making calls, only training, which I feel like has definitely put me in a better position.
Can you talk any about that 90-day period of time and kind of like what that was like, or what was the curriculum? What did you cover? Do you remember?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously we use the wedge, training process, and this was my first time being exposed to the wedge. I'd never heard about it before. Definitely coming from just, picking up the phone and saying, hey, this is Gage from CSU. Let me quote your insurance, to really finding those issues that your, prospect, your client is suffering from, and then, targeting those and how you can bring value to their business and not just quote their business like everybody else calling them, which is what the wedge is teaching you to do. It's, finding those problems, bringing those up to the client and showing you can bring value to their business and help their business has been amazing in the, success and the attempts in reaching out to those prospects.
Yeah, for those that don't know, I mean, one of the biggest things about the wedge, a lot of people have misconceptions about what it is, because part of our marketing about how to get your competition fired and all this sort of stuff. But really, it's a very client-centric, prospect-centric, think inside out, imagine what it's like to be them. All the things I hate about insurance because they don't understand it. And let's approach them from that perspective and all their misconceptions, that sort of stuff, rather than us trying to sell better price, better coverage. Yeah. I mean, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're a dime a dozen, you're going out there and just saying, oh, I've got a special market. And that's actually one of the things I've been using here lately in my positioning statement. You're just trying to separate yourself from the very beginning from the other 10 brokers on offering better price.
Yeah. So you did your 90-day onboarding thing with Cynthia, pretty intense. At the end of that, then you got on the phone, you started cold calling. And then was there any path along that way that finally you kind of had, like, all of a sudden that you had this transformation and things clicked?
I think, and so I went live, I was supposed to go live July 1st, and it ended up actually being pushed back a little bit more until August 1st. So it was almost more, extra 30 days for me, just kind of really, driving the wedge, teaching and training home. I think the time that really clicked for me was when I was actually able to go out live in person with a prospect, run the wedge sales process, and really get to, to see their face, to see that this is a different process, and actually have it work in person was kind of like a light bulb going off for me.
So talk about that some. How was that different for you, and certainly different from what your past experience had been?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, previously I'm just making, 100 cold calls a day. I have no prior research except maybe pulling up, their business name and the owner, offering to quote their insurance, get their information, and then never talk to them again. And instead, doing their prior research beforehand, really getting to know their business, speaking with them beyond just quoting, whether that be claims, service, training, what have you, and really showing that you can bring value to their business, that you want to be a long-standing partner with them. This isn't something that you're just trying to, make a quick buck on.
Yeah. And so then when you would go on the sales call and actually use the wedge, you said you would see something on their face, they would respond differently. What do you mean? Talk about that.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to hear when you go in and you run through this process and every single wedge you're using, they've never done that. I've never had that happen, from any other broker before. Kind of just like a disbelief almost of like, are you really going to offer these things? That's where the trust side comes in, and actually using the service timeline and implementing what you say you're going to do, and doing it on a schedule to build that trust, with that prospect.
So as a result, have you been able to get any BORs or, talk about that.
I have taken a few BORs, and actually for some updated stats, I've got some written down this week I wanted to bring up. This may be too early for you, but just using the 5-layer email strategy, off of 16 calls this week, I've had 8 conversations, and I'm about to finalize 3 appointments actually tomorrow. So about a 37.5% conversion ratio, all based off of the email strategy. And just having that warm phone call makes all the difference even if they just remember your name from a few emails you've sent, has been a game changer in prospecting for me.
Yeah. So let's tell everybody what that is. So we call it the 5-layer email voicemail strategy based on the concept that, particularly like a guy like Gage. Gage is new in the business. He's got a database of a couple of hundred prospects, maybe more. Nobody knows who the hell he is. And, he's going to be making X number of dials. So like you set up a call block and maybe make how many dials?
Yeah, right now I shoot for about 8 calls a day. Nothing crazy. Yeah.
Right. And then historically, out of 8 dials or 8 calls a day, most of the time you get voicemails, and every once in a while you're lucky to get somebody, right?
Right.
So then the power of the 5-layer email voicemail is rather than leaving the traditional voicemail, hey, this is Gage, I want to talk about your insurance and see if I can quote, see if I can save you some money. You just kind of reverse engineer it. We talked about a little while ago. Imagine what it is that they hate about insurance, don't understand, can't manage it. And so then out of that, you build your voicemail strategy and your email strategy almost like your marketing tool. Problem. So then finally, when they do pick up the phone, it's like they already know Gage. Is that what you've experienced?
Absolutely. I think the reverse engineering that you spoke about is huge because, again, you can send a bunch of emails, but if you're just using that same verbiage everyone else is, it's not going to get you the results that you want. And actually this week I sent an email about a claims issue saying confused by claims, being taken advantage of, not understanding how they're paid out. And I had a gentleman respond back with, I do, with a couple exclamation points, really eager to talk. And, he's just having a hard time getting claims paid. So that was awesome to see.
Yeah. And so then, it's kind of early to maybe talk about this, but what kind of revenue have you done in this first 8 months? Because first 3 months, 4 months, you weren't even in the business. Basically, you were training, getting ready.
Right. Really been here just, August to, where we are now. And this has definitely been a different thing for me from where I was previously, when I first started with the whole BOR and working, because we're not really working around, renewal dates, which has been a different thing for me. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I am doing transportation only. So for people listening as well, that's the line of business that I work in. And that's very, renewal heavy, 30 days prior. That's really all anybody wants to talk about. And so I think to date, I've taken BOR on about, $35,000 in revenue here in the past few months. And if I can secure BOR on these ones coming up, it'll be about the same. So probably another $35,000 in revenue. So trending upwards.
Yeah. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, yeah. And a lot of, transportation is, they're very price conscious, right? You drive that truck down the road and you got a driver, you got a truck, you got fuel, you got insurance, you got some compliance issues, and you got a lot of competition. It's hard for them to separate themselves so that their margins are tight. But when you go after it the way you're going after it, you're not going after trying to save them money that's not what you're leading with, is it?
Right, because if you go out, I've experienced this firsthand where you offer to quote their business and they're like, I'm not going to move for $2,000 or whatever that number is. You've got to bring value where it's worth the effort and time for them to switch all their COIs, get to know a new person, take that leap of faith, and like you said, where you can come in and make an impact on, claims, safety, hiring, then that needle starts moving for them and they can really see the value there.
Now, a lot of people are going to be wondering, well, how do you pull all that stuff off? You're making some big promises. What do you have set up to be able to pull that off so that you don't lose them 12 months from now? Can you talk about that?
Sure. Here at Oak Ridge, we have the proactive services department, which is a huge help. And specifically, I'm part of the Hart Hawks group out of Kennesaw, which is Oak Ridge partner. And we have an in-house claims manager that has been doing transportation for over 25 years, which are all great resources to have. But there's also the side of, sticking to the wedges, learning the wedges in that process and building out those documents, which is something that Cynthia's, very focused on with us, and rightly so. Doing simple wedges like the business narrative, claims review, claims management, things like that can really make an impact right off the gate, where you're not having to engage, other people and bring other people in is huge.
Yeah. Awesome. So I don't recall if you're married or have kids or plan to be married or plan to have kids. Well, what's your situation there?
I'm married for 3 years and my daughter just turned 7 months old a few days ago.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Your daughter was you on the way to being born when you were down here in Bluffton, I think. That's what I recall now that we think about it.
Yes, yeah, I was cutting it close by just a couple days.
That's cool. And particularly now with the daughter, does the goal setting that we try to take you through Big Nation and stuff like that, does it have even more meaning to you? Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually speaking about this with Cynthia a few days ago. We were kind of talking the new year, and it's one thing to put goals somewhere, keep them in your head, but what I love about Big Nation, and it's kind of shaped some other things in my life personally as well, is building out those processes and actually seeing the real numbers on how to get to your goal and achieve that goal has been very useful. And absolutely, it's definitely made my revenue goals go up. And, it's expensive to live right now and you want to have nice things and take care of your family. And that's one of the reasons why I'm in this position. And so definitely has, made me reach higher for sure.
And I'm just curious, have you worked through any of those goals with your spouse, your wife, or did you just kind of do it on your own?
No, she's definitely involved. That's not really like her forte, something she kind of would rather me just kind of handle, but I'd still keep her, involved and up to date and knowing what's going on.
Yeah, for those that don't know, it's like one of the things in Big Nation that I built kind of based on my own personal experience, being the father of 4 daughters. When they were 6, 4, 2, and newborn, I met with a financial advisor going, how much money do I need to make or save to pay for 4 cars and pay for 4 universities, pay for 4 weddings, on my retirement? And the guy told me I had to save $65,000 a year. It just kind of blew my mind because I was able to maybe save $7,500. But it really caused a focus in my life. And then once I knew that I had to save $65,000 a year, then I had to just increase my income so that I had left over after tax. And then I could break down my activity. So that's kind of what we're trying to bring to producers like Gage and a lot of others to get you thinking about that. Because at 24 years old, what's beautiful is if you get on this path now, 20 years from now, you're only 44. 30 years from now, you're only 54. If you do this and do this diligently, you'll be a rich man. Not that rich, everything, but if you have a choice between having money and not having money is probably a better thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Fine. So would you when you compare this experience at Oak Ridge using Big Nation with your past experience, having to make cold calls and, work through the database and all that sort of stuff, how has Big Nation helped you do that?
Making that transition from just picking up the phone with a script, like I, said before, of this is blah, blah, blah from this agency, let me quote your business. There's definitely a learning curve in those first 90, 120 days of, the wedge can be a lot right up front, but when you really take the time and, invest in the process and learn it well and make those calls and using Big Nation to walk you through and having those videos on there. If you need a refresher, you can always go on there and refresh on any step that maybe you're, stumbling on, and having this using as a CRM as well to really keep track and diligent notes of who you've talked to, who the agent is, anything you want, Big Nation can provide. And that's been, very beneficial as well, just to really keep, track and detailed notes of everyone that I'm speaking to.
Do you store your voicemails and your emails in there so when you're making your cold calls, you can rapid fire on that?
I do have and I use the email way more than I probably use the voicemail strategy. I feel like I have more success coming from the emails. A lot of these guys, transportation are just running, 1,000 miles an hour, but it's tough to catch them on the phone. But, what I'll find is a lot of times at 8, 9, 10, midnight, they're emailing me back because that's when they're able to get on their phone, have a couple of minutes. And so it's nice to have something waiting for them that they can just shoot a message back real quick and then, connect at another time.
Yeah. Awesome. And I'm curious, have you actually been involved in building a service timeline for any of your clients?
Yes, I actually just built one a few days ago for a towing client that I'm working with right now.
Tell us what that was like. How long did it take? What was it like? What'd you do?
So obviously the service timeline was built off the wedges that, we agreed upon, picture perfect when I ran through the sales call with, the buyer. We had 4 services on there. Again, mainly all services I can deliver myself of, business narrative, a marketing strategy, claims review process, and then some help with some safety, handbook that they've got going on. I'd say that really took me maybe 30 minutes to really load everything on there. And that's maybe on the high end, and print it off and then go deliver that to my client or email it, whatever you want to do, and kind of walk them through that, and really having him see that in person, I think instantly built some more trust there from just my words saying it to him and then showing him that document was great for him to have.
Could you see a sparkle in his eye or a grin on his face for that sort of stuff when he did that?
For sure. And I think, again, it just builds out of like, it's a small thing, but, I kept my word. I told him I was going to do it. And then, about 36 hours later, he had it in his hands. And a lot of these guys were promised a lot of things and left waiting, unfortunately, and they never happened. And so I think just right off the get-go, building that trust is so important.
Yeah. So if you're a relatively young producer like Gage and you've got big ambitions, I mean, one of your big challenges is set enough appointments, have quantifiable, real differentiation you can use to win the account or bust income relationship, and then some sort of tools to be able to retain that for a long period of time. If you could do that, stack it up for, I don't know, I mean, you sit there and think about it. I know part of Cynthia's goal is to convert you guys into $1 million producers in about 5 years.
Right.
That's pretty outstanding. And I know she's got several people that are on track to do that. Man, you get $1 million book, you're making $300,000 a year, maybe a little bit more. And yeah, you got a great lifestyle, you're making a lot, and you got the ability to save a lot and take care of your family. So it's a pretty cool deal. Huh?
Yes, sir. There's no other job out there that, offers that freedom, and it's in your own hands to take it. So yeah. A lot of pressure, but a lot of freedom as well.
Anything you'd want to say to other young producers like yourself, or to maybe agency owners like what you had in the past, like encourage them a little bit about what they should be doing for their guys? Just curious.
Yeah, I think, if you're on the fence of, you're not using the wedge, and again, I've never been exposed to it until, April of last year, but the growth I've had in the past couple of months and just the level of maturity and, my speech to the prospects I'm reaching out to has just been a night and day difference for me. And I just feel better reaching out to my clients as well, actually having value to bring to them and be a trusted partner for them, and not someone that's just reaching out, every 12 months and offering to, quote their business and not offer any help to them.
Yeah. Good for you, man. Well, we're real proud of you and happy for your success. And I really appreciate you taking some time and doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Randy.
Our body.